Welcome to the Astro Psyche. This is your weekly astrology forecast for August 11th through the 17th. And this week we have a multiplicity of themes going on as usual, and we can think of some of the core archetypal themes that are happening this week as involving the concepts of Eros and Logos, both being ancient Greek concepts or phenomena. Eros being connected to love, desire, attraction in all manner of ways. The uh, the vitality and life force behind love and attraction, and then Logos being a symbol of insight and wisdom and knowing. We could also think of this as Eros being the heart or the body, and Logos meaning the mind or the intellect. So we have these two different phenomena that are really very present this week. Particularly, we have Venus and Jupiter making a conjunction in the sign of Cancer. We could think of this as very Eros-like. And then we also have Mercury stationing direct this week, meaning that Mercury's retrograde for this period of time will come to a close. And this being really a symbol of connecting into the logos, the awareness, the insight, and how that can be the rational mind as well as the imaginative mind. And some other things that we're going to talk about this week. My name is Shawna McGrath. I'm a depth psychotherapist and an astrologer, and I'm so honored to share the astrology of this week with you from a depth psychological perspective. So, let's talk about first a more broad background transit that is informing some of these more short term of the moment things. So, first we'll start with Saturn and Aries making a sextile to Gemini. And sextiles are more subtle in nature. A sextile shows where two planets are coming together, where they're essentially two signs apart. And so this either will happen in water and earth or fire and air. Those are the combinations. In this case, we have Saturn in Aries, which is fire, and Uranus in Gemini, which is air. And so we could think also of this as these elements are coming together in a way that we imagine there is a harmonious mixing, and there's also a subtlety to it. It's not something that is going to be experienced as in your face, typically as a conjunction or an opposition. So there's a subtleness to it. And also, we're still talking about some prominent energies when we're talking about Saturn, the planet of time, finiteness, limitation, boundaries, structure, containment, safety. Saturn is so much about the the structures that we work within and how those structures can be experienced as limiting as well as containing. So all of the multiplicity of Saturn things. Saturn also speaks to our sense of achievement, accomplishment, gaining experiences or wisdom or confidence over long periods of time, and even doing things incrementally over time where it feels like there's not much happening. But when we look over broader cycles, longer cycles of time, we can see a very foundational and enriching change. And Uranus, the other part of the equation here, is a symbol of changing structures. Uranus really reminds us uh, that nothing can remain the same forever. That we're constantly, even if we want to maintain this sense of stability, that Uranus is like, yes, in order to be stable, we need to continue to reinvent and to change and to modify and to be flexible in our approach, because the nature of life is change and transition. And so the more that we can do to meet a current circumstance with a sense of, okay, what is here, what is now, what is being asked of me, what is being required of me, and meeting that as it is. That actually, ironically, paradoxically, helps us to maintain a sense of integrity. And so I think this aspect, Saturn to Uranus, really speaks of possibly subtle adjustments and innovations in structure where maybe there is something about your life or about your inner world, your inner experience that wants some simultaneous transformation as well as stability, and that those two, though they seem very different, they can actually help each other out. They can bind into one another. Now, do I want to say anything else about that? So, um, I have my notes here. Yeah, subtle innovations in existing structures. We can also think of this as subtle innovations in agreements or procedures, which Saturn is also agreements and procedures. The things that we agree to, okay, this is our um, these are the agreements that we have to one another, or these are the procedures that we have in place in our life. Um, this could also be a symbol of challenging or disrupting traditional norms, even in seemingly minor ways, and that these seemingly minor disruptions in traditional norms may create more space for confidence and stability. And yes, a reminder that stability may paradoxically require shifting the norm in order to maintain the original integrity of a project, a commitment, or an intention. And so, um, again, this is more subtle, it's more background. So it might be just something that you notice, and it might be something that is not super integrated into your more um, immediate life. But I really want you to be thinking, especially because we have Uranus freshly in Gemini, where is there possibly a call to innovate, to diverge, or to simply question the way that things are going? And maybe there is something that is incredibly innovative that is being called for at this point in time. Okay. Uh, do I want to say more? I feel like there's something else I want to say more about that. Yeah, I think also I'm just really wanting to say in this moment that both Saturn and Uranus can also be symbols of ethics and integrity and finding our way to connect with those principles. I think, especially now, that feels really important when having a sense of ethics and integrity can be very complicated and nuanced. And so I think this is also an opportunity to connect in with uh, what feels important to you right now and how you are moving forward in your life in a way that maintains your own sense of uh, your sense of inner stability, while also allowing for things to be changeable. Okay. So also this week, Venus will make a conjunction to Jupiter. So Venus has been moving towards Jupiter the last couple of weeks in the sign of Cancer. And so we've been already feeling into this energy. Venus is this archetypal principle of relationships, connection, attraction, beauty, pleasure, enjoyment. And Venus can also connect into our financial circumstances. It can also connect into our experiences of self-worth or self-value or self-esteem, particularly because there's this phenomenon around what it is that moves you, how you feel called or attracted to something, and how the psyche sort of structures itself around the things that we are drawn to or repulsed by, and that there's something there around uh, what it says about you as far as what you're drawn to and the way that you spend your time. So overall, Venus is very relationally oriented. It's very uh, pleasure oriented, and it's very aesthetic oriented too. Aesthetic in it is a symbol of the ways that we feel moved by an experience, by a sensory experience. So it's very embodied in that way. And then Jupiter is a symbol of growth, expansion, the moreness of life, like more like wanting to um, explore more, wanting to have more, wanting to be more, wanting to look at all of the different ways that the different diversity that is present in humanity and in the world, wanting to really fully explore the complete spectrum of experiences. And uh, Jupiter can have this feeling tone of lightness, of almost sort of like this, like a balloon being blown up, where it's like, oh, things are just continuing to uh, to become bigger and grander and more interesting. And for this reason, Jupiter is very connected to experiences of optimism and hope. And also, Jupiter can be a symbol of experiences where sometimes we can bite off more than we can chew, or there becomes a sensation of too muchness or overwhelm. And so I think it's important to name that there's uh, both of these planets, there's an inherent sense of enjoyment and pleasure and beautiful experiences that are connected in their symbolism. And also, there can be this feeling of sort of overflowing, so to speak. And, that's another human experience. So let's see, what else did I want to say about this? I think this week there's really this theme around celebration and enjoyment and a desire to fully embrace pleasure, beauty, and the loving feelings that come from emotional connection, particularly because we're talking about the sign of Cancer here, which is very much about emotional connection. And when I say emotional connection, I'm speaking of romantic, platonic, and otherwise. This is about really being open to emotional intimacy. And Jupiter having an impact on Venus expands our desire, while Venus having an impact to Jupiter shows a delight in exploring all of the possibilities that life has to offer. So, like I mentioned earlier, some astrologers may say that um, that this particular aspect alludes to a potential for overindulgence. And that certainly may be the case if there's a need for escape from painful experiences, painful circumstances. And uh, from a depth psychological standpoint, overindulgence as a phenomenon simply tells us that there's a deep psychological craving for something that isn't being fully satisfied or satiated. And so, uh, overindulgence is not pathological, it's telling us something. It's telling us something about a need or a craving or a desire that is not being satiated. And there can be a multitude of reasons why that may be. Um, uh, there can be a desire that isn't being satiated because the raw materials for that desire or need are simply not present for whatever reason. It could also be that there's an uh, an improper fit of maybe we're trying desperately sometimes to get a desire or a need met, and the thing or things that we're using to satiate that are not for whatever reason a good fit. Um, and so in this way, accidental overindulgence, whether that is through things that we are taking in, eating, drinking, working, media, relationships, anything can be overindulged in that way. Um, Overindulgence can be an indicator of desire, Venus, that is being expanded, Jupiter, so that we can perceive this craving more fully and do our best to accept beauty, pleasure, connection, and love in a way that is truly satisfying. And so this is a great week to notice what you're being drawn toward, what you're attracted to, what you find enticing, and how you are satiating that desire, how you are um, finding ways that feel deeply meaningful to fulfill that craving. Now, another piece of this is that Venus in Cancer will make a square to the asteroid Ceres. And so Ceres is a Greek goddess that was a mother goddess, mother of Persephone. And a core part of Ceres's myth is that she was separated from her daughter. She was separated from her child. And so there was great grief and challenge and in that experience. And there was a mourning and there was a wanting to, in Ceres's myth, she actually tried to recreate another child. She took someone's human child and tried to make him into a god so that he could be with her and accompany her. And so Ceres as an asteroid to me speaks about our experiences with uh, family, parental figures, and really attachment, relational attachment phenomena, especially experiences where we have needed to separate from the family to become our own person, and how the family has dealt with that, and the very natural um, experiences of sadness and grief and loss that can come from separation, and how we navigate through that, like how we navigate through um, healthy, developmentally appropriate separations. Um, so what does that mean with Venus? So I think that this, or wait, let's see, hang on a second. Is there more that I want to say about Ceres? Um, hmm, I do want to do a whole video about Ceres and the other asteroids at some point, because the asteroids were discovered fairly recently in comparison to the other planetary bodies. So the asteroids were discovered in the 1800s. And this is like super recent compared to the planets that have been being watched since BC, essentially. And so I share that with you because we have less lived experience over the course of humanity of studying and watching and observing the asteroids versus what that means to us symbolically. And so I also I think that Ceres especially can be explored in a way that is not just about the myth, but what's happening in the myth. I think that Ceres is not just about mother and nurturing, which is some of the interpretations that you'll find online, but I think that Ceres really speaks to um, our experiences where uh, we needed to wanted to go our own path and start our own life, and how our family dealt with that. And I think that sometimes Ceres can speak to um, a sense of um, enmeshment that can happen, psychological enmeshment, and how we can take on the feelings of others or the emotions of others that are maybe um, not necessarily ours to carry. And so I share that with you because whenever we have an aspect that involves a planet to Ceres, it may involve exploring your relational attachments and how your experiences, particularly during childhood with your family, but particularly when it came time for you to embark out on your own in some way or to be different from your family, how that was experienced for you and how that informs your current relational dynamics. Um, so, Venus in Cancer, square Ceres in Aries this week may involve exploring your relationship attachment style and how that may be informed by early experiences with caregivers or your family of origin. And when I say attachment style, what I mean by that is the way that you connect with other people, and particularly the way that your uh, relationship patterns tend to go when you become deeply bonded with someone. And this often becomes very clear when we're in relationship with people where there is this some level of commitment or being in relationship over long periods of time. We start to see patterns come up, and patterns are not bad. They are what they are. They're not good. They're not bad. They just have certain impacts on how we are, and we all have different ways of attaching and connecting with each other based on our early experiences. So, uh, Venus Ceres speaks to the ways that we connect, how we feel loved, how we feel attracted. And this particular week is a phase of time where we may see more clearly the underpinnings of how our particular attachment style or love style came into being. During this transit, it may be helpful for you to reflect on the moments when you feel most connected with someone and what happened in those moments that invoked that feeling of connection. Okay. So, and yeah, so as I say that, I'm curious what comes up for you in the moment, if there's anything that arises in your consciousness. And then also, of course, we can just see what happens and see how we feel over the course of the week. So, also this week, Mercury is stationing direct. When Mercury stations direct, that means that the retrograde period is coming to a close, coming to a sense of completion. Mercury will station direct on Monday, August 11th at 12:30 a.m. Pacific time. And it's stationing at 4 degrees of Leo, so early in the sign. When Mercury stations direct, from our perspective here on Earth, in the sky, it looks like Mercury is paused at one point in the sky. And this tells us that there is a psychological pausing, that there is a symbolically that there is taking a moment uh, to orient yourself to exactly where you are right now. And so when this happens this week, you may wish to reflect on what changes, contemplations, or questions have come up for you since Mercury began its retrograde in Leo on July 17th. Uh, yeah, I think Mercury retrograde is such an interesting process because each one is slightly unique. Uh, it, of course, based on the sign that Mercury is in, and also it is happening in a different context each time. It's happening with different planetary alignments that are happening in the background, and also based on wherever Mercury is in relation to the other planets, it's aspecting other planets at different times. So this retrograde is slightly, subtly different than the last one. It will be different than the next one. And there's always something to contemplate, I think, at least. There's always emotions, thoughts, feelings, experiences that we can process. And Mercury retrograde often is a time for emotional digesting, emotional processing. And sometimes things can come up during the retrograde process where it's like it sort of feels like a problem, maybe, or something to be solved. And sometimes it is. I have definitely experienced this during many Mercury retrogrades where, gosh, this just happened yesterday. There was something like a minor detail in some of my business paperwork that needed to be fixed, and I didn't know that it needed to be fixed until something else like pinged it because it was wrong and it couldn't be accepted and blah blah blah. So like it led me to fixing something that needed to be fixed in a very practical way. And also I have had experiences of uh, more big picture life themes and questions that I'm contemplating and considering and chewing on. And so um, I think for you, it when we have the Mercury direct that's happening, we can think of it as a bookend to say, okay, we are moving into a phase of completion here with this particular experience. And it doesn't mean that the things that have been rumbling around in your brain are going to cease to exist or to go away. And also, there's a sense of closure or completion, I think, at least to some level. Of course, again, it depends on what's happening in your life and what it is that you're evaluating. Um, and also, I think that we can, especially because this happens um, Monday, we can think of this entire week as a process of the last phases of doing our completion, integration, and making sense of the themes that have come up over the last couple of weeks, last several weeks. Now, also related, Mercury is stationing direct very closely opposite Pluto, which symbolizes a potential for deeper insight, healing, catharsis, or discovering unconscious or hidden material. And so we could also think of this as a part of the Mercury retrograde experience as well, is that it has been very softly, loosely opposite Pluto. And particularly during this station, uh, Mercury is the closest that it will be during the retrograde opposite Pluto. It's just a couple of degrees away. And so I think there's also something here for you around really uh, going deep and exploring and being open for exploring the hidden or exploring the mysterious or exploring the unknown or unconscious in some way. Now, also related, Mercury in Leo will be making a sextile to Mars in Libra. And so uh, this aspect actually activates the existing Mars opposite Saturn and Neptune configuration. And uh, we talked about this last week where Mars in Libra is opposite Saturn and Neptune in Aries. And that aspect is a symbol of taking action or drawing on your passions and agitations to explore the boundaries of practicality and inspiration. So this Mercury coming in to make a sextile to Mars activates, reinvigorates this aspect, this transit of Mars opposite Saturn, Neptune. And it shows that some new information, insight, or maybe some synchronicities may arise, particularly in relation to a tense situation of working out boundaries, commitment, and how to find a path forward that feels both realistic as well as hopeful and open. So as I'm sharing this astrology with you, I'm really feeling the sense of openness and like feeling the call when we're talking about Venus, Jupiter, and then when we have this Mercury situation going on, Mercury direct, Mercury connecting with Pluto and with Mars, I feel a sense of deep insight that is happening here for you this week. And sometimes insight and clarification can be sort of uh, unconscious at first. It can sort of be behind the scenes and then it seeps forward. So I'm really feeling this again, that like the Eros, the enlivenment of feeling drawn towards something and then feeling a change in awareness. And these two may work together for you. The last piece that I'll say here, and then I have some reflection questions for you, is we have our last quarter moon on Friday, August 15th. It's exact at 10:12 p.m. Pacific time, so maybe Friday, Saturday, depending on where you are. And it's exact at 23 degrees of Taurus. So last quarter moons are this time of winding down, delegating, making peace, like really prioritizing your energy and doing less. No, what do I want to say? Doing more with less is really the energy of the last quarter moon. Let's see. I could also say it's about letting things settle, releasing, reprioritizing, and yeah, it's about making the most of your emotional energy by focusing on what is essential in the moment. Okay, so yeah, I'm curious what's happening for you, what you're feeling as I'm sharing this, and then reflection questions that I have for you. Number one, what are you attracted to right now? I think that's so important this week is what are you feeling? And when I say attracted to, this doesn't have to be what we think of as uh, sexual, though if that's maybe that's involved, but like I'm thinking like what are you attracted to as in what makes you feel alive? Where is there this draw and intrigue? And when you're exposed to thinking about or exploring certain things, there's just this feeling of opening that's happening for you. So what it what, who, how, when are those things? Number two, very similarly, how, where, or when are you feeling enlivened, intrigued, and more alive? And I would also say, like, what are some of the qualities in those experiences? Are those experiences where um, there's a lot of activity, where there's not a lot of activity? Is it very sensory? Is it more thought-based? Like what is it that's invoking this sense of aliveness in you? And then number three, what have you been contemplating that wants more exploration? So, what's been on your mind that really wants more of your attention and mental energy? And this is really connecting into the Mercury retrograde to complete and close out this retrograde contemplation phase in time. Okay, so as usual, we'll pull some tarot. If you're not already, I invite you to get into a comfortable space and do whatever you need to do to feel settled in your body. It may involve being still, it might involve finding some gentle movement. You may wish to close your eyes or to keep your eyes open, but focus on something in front of you that feels soothing. And as you're here, imagine that you are contained within this beautiful sphere of light. Light can be any color that feels safe, secure, and just really vibrant for you. If you're not a visual person, you can also imagine that there's this field of energy around you. Whatever feels appropriate for you, you're contained within this beautiful sphere of protective energy. And in this place, you may wish to invite in the presence of your spiritual guidance team, benevolent ancestors, whoever or whatever is that benevolent, protective, guiding force for you. Ask that they're here with you now to help you, to protect you, and to communicate with you in a way that you can easily understand. Mm. Okay. And then bringing your focus to your heart space at the center of your chest. And in this place, maybe there is a questioning or a wondering, something that's on your heart that you would like assistance with. Okay, and then last part here, you may wish to pick a number between 1 and 3 to have that card be special to you. First card is the Four of Swords. I know that we pulled this recently, and I can't remember if it was last week. I think it was maybe a couple, 2 or 3 weeks ago, but you let me know. And I pulled this reversed, and I'm pretty sure last time we pulled it reversed, so I find that very intriguing here. So Four of Swords is about rest, restoration, meditation, and it's so much about inaction and it's particularly inaction that allows you to recuperate in some way, that allows for a sense of healing. In most decks, the imagery is of a person laying down, like full sleep mode. And it usually looks like they're in maybe a church or some sort of calm, sacred type place. And in this deck, the person is laying down with their feet up the wall. It looks like they're laying on their bed and their cat is on their belly and their hair is just like flowing down. They have one arm over their head and they look like just super restful and at ease. And when we're looking at it upside down, it's sort of like they're resting on the ceiling. So when I'm looking at this, it makes me wonder if there is possibly a call to reinvent or renew or recommit to your restorative practices, whatever those things are that help you to take care of yourself, to renew your energy, to take care of your mental, physical, spiritual, emotional well-being. Is there something that maybe needs to be changed here? But this is definitely the topic, is taking care of yourself, getting healing in some way. And that's probably going to involve some sort of uh, receptive chill time for you as much as you can get it. We're going to look at the other cards here and I'm going to see what's happening, but that's just sort of my sense. And you know, gosh, I think so many of us are pushed beyond capacity at different levels in different phases of our life. And so, in some ways, the Four of Swords is always a good idea. And also, you're getting this particular card at this particular moment, again, in a repeat kind of fashion. Um, I'm actually kind of feeling very Mercury retrograde or Mercury direct about this. And so, yeah, how are you taking care of yourself? Um, what resources are available to you that maybe haven't been explored yet? Okay, maybe more to say about that in a moment. Second card, it's very similar energy, is the Hermit. And so the Hermit is so intriguing because the Hermit, in some ways, has a sort of self-explanatory uh, symbol. It's a symbol of going within your own self. I did pull this card upright also, so upright Hermit card. It's a symbol of going within, going into your own insight and wisdom and way of being. It is about not necessarily being alone or solitary, though that may be the case. It's more about turning your attention inward, turning your mental, emotional, sensory experiences into your own awareness and focusing on what is happening for you right now, what is true for you. And in some ways, the Hermit can also be about finding your finding answers from contemplation, from self-reflection, finding answers by going within. Also, the hermit can be a symbol of going on a journey to seek answers, but oftentimes this can be a very solitary practice. In this particular deck, this person is sitting by a fire. It looks like they've just prepared a ritual or a spell of some sort, and the ritual or spell is in progress right now. Like when I'm looking at it, the candles are burning. There's some cards that are down. There's like a little potion or something that's in the corner that looks like it's simmering, and they're drinking a tea. So there's many different processes that are going on that are a part of this ritual. In this way, the hermit can also be about inner transformation, the inner transformation that can happen when we turn our focus to our inner world, to self-exploration. And yeah, I'm really struck by this combo of the Four of Swords being this sort of more contemplative, quiet, inward focused energy, and then the Hermit also speaking to that as well in a different way. Whereas the Four of Swords is more about repairing, renewing. It's more about a sense of healing, and the hermit, at least in this context to me, speaks more about inner exploration. And actually, okay, so it makes me wonder if doing the hermit thing of inner exploration requires requires some energy. Um, yeah, but there's definitely something here around uh, focusing on the internal and focusing on what is true for you, what is alive for you, and seeking answers via maybe non-traditional means or means that are more esoteric. Uh, Hermit can also be a symbol of a guide. In the traditional tarot, the hermit is this person who's on this path holding a lantern and lighting the way forward. So the hermit can also be a symbol of um, inner guidance. It can also be a symbol of seeking external guidance for the purpose of moving forward in your own energy. And then the last card here is the Ace of Wands. So I think this is very intriguing because just even if you're able to see this card, if you're watching the video, this is a very dynamic card. Uh, it feels very enlivening to me. It feels very extroverted. It's a symbol of a person riding a broom, and the broom is going straight up in the sky. There's also a rocket in the background behind them that's going straight up, and their hair is like super full and curly, and it's sort of wild in a way, and the cat's on top of their head. So this card, there's a lot of movement, there's a lot of energy, there's a lot of enthusiasm. And this is so with the Ace of Wands. With the Ace of Wands, it's a symbol of the core root of enthusiasm, passion, inspiration. And aces are typically beginnings. They're the beginning of the beginning, like the initial idea or the initial feeling, or I think the way that I'm feeling here, there's something about connecting into your inner power or the root of something that is going to continue to elaborate for you, but it feels very much about connecting to your vitality, your enthusiasm, and something that's going to be coming forward. And so it's very interesting here. I'm just like so curious about the way things are going to play out for you, because there is encouragement to take care of yourself. Four of Swords, I also didn't say swords is a symbol of the mind, thoughts, and communication. And so the Four of Swords, gosh, so much feels like Mercury. And I think it may be asking you to tend to the way that your thoughts and your mind and the things that you're thinking, but also the things that you're absorbing, that you're exposed to, uh, that has an impact on you. And from time to time, there is a need uh, to take care of yourself so that there's not a sense of burning out or um, being influenced in a way that doesn't feel good for you. And so there's something here around, yeah, like really taking care of yourself and taking a step, back, and then doing some of that deeper inner work is possible when, yeah, it's almost, okay, yeah, this is the way that I'm feeling this. Okay, so it's almost like the Four of Swords is you lay down. Step one, lay down. Step two, hermit, close your eyes, go inward. I'm saying this, it might be literal, it might be symbolic too, but it's like step one is to um, find places to create the scenario where you can focus on your own internal experiences in some way. And that's going to be different for all of us. For some folks, um, what helps you go inward is actually physical movement in some way. Um, but there's something here about moving incrementally deeper into your own awareness. And then from that, there's this like rooting in and connecting to something that's very vital and enlivening and that wants to shoot up like a flower that is coming from the deep earth. All right, that is your astrology for this week. I hope that you enjoyed this. Such a pleasure to make these videos for you. I am wishing you the very best, wishing you much ease and security and safety this week and enjoyment. And I'll see you next week. Bye.